going on, all you wonderful A-plussers out there? It is I, Stuart, here once again with another review for you of my adventures with Superman. This time I'm going to be talking about episode number 9, the second part of the previous episode, which I totally did not write the name down. In fact, I actually took no notes of this. I'm going to be trying to do this review off the top of my head, which I think I could do because I've been doing it for most of the episodes this season. So that all being said, let's get right into this. So this episode picks off exactly where the previous episode leaves off, which is that Superman has now been taken by the government and he is now being interrogated / tortured basically for information about an invasion that is inevitably going to come to Earth, leaving us as the audience very confused. What invasion? What could he possibly be talking about? We don't know anything about an invasion. Certainly Superman doesn't know anything about an invasion. Now, something I didn't realize from the previous episode, I thought Jimmy and Lois Lane were there when the military captured Superman. Apparently not, because when Superman goes missing, they have no idea where he could possibly be, but they go looking for him, but not alone. They actually get the kids from the kids news club, whatever it's called, but they basically, they of course try to talk the kids out of helping because they don't want to put any children in harm's way, but of course they're very insistent on it because, you know, Superman is a good man who's there for the people. And so the people should be there for Superman when he needs them, is how they kind of see it. So all of them are out there on the lookout for Superman. Meanwhile, we cut back to the interrogation. We see Superman being interrogated by the general, who I'm pretty sure we all know at this point is General Sam Lane, whether they're going to say his name or not. And at first, you know, you really get really pissed off at Sam Lane because we know that this version of Superman is a very good person. We know he is not the villain. So seeing him in this situation just being tortured and then Sam Lane like completely trying to justify it really like pisses you off as, you know, an audience member watching this episode. But then we get a flashback of why Sam Lane is so insistent that Superman is the villain, and we find out that there actually is a reason behind his fear of Superman, and that is that they originally had found a UFO out in the middle of nowhere. And it would seem that this UFO was really more of a teleportation device, and when it turns on, we see an entire armada of what appears to be Kryptonian invaders. Now, it may not have actually been Kryptonian invaders, it may have just been invaders from a completely other planet. I mean, there is the one planet, totally forgot the name of it, but it was like neighbors to Krypton, but it's where Mon-El comes from, if I'm not mistaken. Totally forgot. If you guys remember the name of that planet, let me know in the comments below, but essentially that is technically where they could be coming, although I'm more my theory is leaning more towards Zod, like it's going to be Kryptonians, but it's not going to be like Krypton as a whole. It's just going to be a small portion of Krypton, and that being Zod. You know, his motivation probably being similar to what it was in Man of Steel, that being them wanting to terraform the planet Earth in order to make it more inhabitable by Kryptonians, which to which I just got to ask, why? I mean, if you leave Earth the way it is, wouldn't it be even easier to conquer? Because, you know, you got superpowers, but I wouldn't know. I'm not a supervillain or a conqueror, so, you know, I don't make these types of evil plans in the back of my mind. But that being said, we do see, though, while this portal is opening, that Superman's pod was, like, in that armada, or at the very least, it was flying past the armada, and that's how it ended up landing on Earth. And they were able to close the portal before any real damage gets done, but they do get some of that Kryptonian technology, and that's where a lot of the tech that we see the military experimenting with comes from. It's all repurposed alien technology. So a very interesting twist about General Sam Lane's character, and I mean, I'm sure all of us like expected he did have some reason to suspect Superman wasn't a good guy, but at least now, you know, being able to see where his fear comes from helps us like understand him more as a character and makes us see him way less of a two-dimensional villain. Something very interesting about his interrogation with Superman is that he does start to question a lot of his theories on whether or not Superman Superman is an invader. He starts to notice, for example, that Superman is very young, and there's no way he could have been part of that invasion if they age at the same pace as humans do. That is, but of course he has no reason to, or no way of confirming that at the moment. But he brings this up with Amanda Waller, and of course Amanda Waller is having none of it. What's so interesting is that this is the first series I can think of where I've seen Amanda Waller taking orders from someone. And when we see in the flashback that he did kind of save Amanda Waller's life when she got shot, helped carry her to safety, we can kind of see why she was willing to follow General Sam Lane for as long as she did. But the moment that General Sam Lane, mentions that, hey, we might be in the wrong here, her attitude makes a complete 180, and suddenly she kind of, even though she's technically not in charge of the mission, she starts taking charge and telling Sam to know his place as the general, pretty much. Something I even love is, you get this whole thing with her in the flashback of how she just wants to basically serve her country without question, and we definitely see that in both the flashback and the present. We see her wanting to just assume Superman's a threat without even questioning him or anything like that. So while this is all going on, we have the Task Force X, who in the case of Livewire, we see that the technology she's been using has actually kind of modified her own DNA, and now she is able to use her powers even without having the power suit on her, and she uses it to basically break her and all the other people who are part of Task Force X out. And this unfortunately includes Parasite, who has a score to settle with Superman. Superman doesn't want to fight back after seeing the destruction his people caused, but of course Parasite doesn't take that for an answer, so Parasite eventually escapes, and he starts collecting power from the city in order to power his suit. Superman escapes as well, very weakened, barely able to move, but he eventually does find Lois Lane by using his super hearing. Unfortunately, Parasite is now more powerful than ever because he has now started to suck in all the power from the city, thus making him essentially a kaiju-sized monster, and Superman has no choice but to face him down, because if he doesn't, Parasite is going to basically hurt everyone in the city. So what we get is a really cool battle between Superman and Parasite. And what's really unique about this fight is that essentially all the times that we see Superman in the past gaining all these powers, this is what it was kind of building up to. We see him getting power after power after power, and now we get to see him utilizing each of these powers in his final fight with this Parasite monster. Now of course it's a superhero show, so of course he's got to be losing this fight at first because Parasite is just overpowering him at this point. But then we have Jimmy taking advantage of his viewers that he gets from his Flamebird YouTube channel, and convinces people in a live stream to turn off their power in Metropolis, basically telling them that if Parasite can't use the power from the city, he won't have as much power as he does, and Superman will be able to have a little bit more of the advantage. So we see that the entire city listens. Something I really love about this montage is that we see all these people watching Jimmy live and appreciating and listening to him when he says that Superman is there to help. But then of course we get a glimpse at Alex, who of course I'm still going more towards Lex and not Alexander Luthor. I think it's just a longer name for Lex Luthor and not a short name for Alexander Luthor, basically. Those of you who don't know what the difference is, Alexander Luthor is Lex Luthor's son, and Lex Luthor, well, is Lex Luthor, Superman's worst enemy. So I'm still going on the theory that he is Lex Luthor, but we see him for a brief moment watching Jimmy's live stream, and he seems to be the only one just completely ignoring Jimmy. And so I'm sure that's where the tiny bit of power that Parasite still has kind of comes from. Probably comes from LexCorp or whatever kind of building that he has at the time. Something I would love to see is the idea of LexCorp, but as a startup company. So basically maybe he has he's starting it in a studio apartment, or maybe his parents' garage. I think that would be kind of a funny take on LexCorp if that's how they do it in the next season. Anyways, this does work. Parasite gets powered down like a lot, to which he's still bigger than Superman, but he doesn't have as much power as he did. So eventually Superman does overpower him in the fight. He even uses his newfound X-ray vision to discover where Dr. Ivo is in the Parasite suit and basically takes him out, and Dr. Ivo is brought to justice. We get a really cool epilogue with, Superman reuniting with Lois and Jimmy. Everything seems all well and good, but unfortunately, two things happen at the end. Number one, General Sam Lane is no longer in charge of Task Force X. It is now Amanda Waller, and Amanda Waller gives Sam Lane a gun that is supposed to be able to take down Superman. And basically his orders are not to capture Superman, but to kill him. So this will be very interesting. I have a prediction that I'll get to in just a moment. But the other thing that happens is that Jimmy gets a hold of the orb, the green orb that shows different versions of Superman, specifically versions of him where he is a villain in different realities. So I'm very curious to see how he's going to react to this new information in the next episode. But finally, now here is my theory on where we're going to go with Sam Lane. I do think that Sam Lane is at first going to be willing to do his mission, though hesitant about it, not 100% sure. But I think the definitive factor that'll make him realize that he's in the wrong will be when he sees that Lois trusts Superman. I think that even though he does have an estranged relationship with his daughter, I do think there is going to be a bit of trust there, and that will be what eventually leads to him realizing that taking down Superman would be the wrong thing to do. And yeah, that's kind of where I'm thinking they're gonna go with the next episode. Or I don't know how many episodes are in the next season or in this season, so I do think that's how they're gonna end the season, but we'll have to wait and see. It's funny, I kind of went into this episode expecting it to be the season finale. I was a little bit surprised that it wasn't. Not that I'm complaining, I'm very happy to watch more and more episodes of this series. I'm really enjoying it. So however many more episodes there are this season, I look forward to it. I just personally thought that this was the season finale. Kind of happy that I was wrong about that. So we'll see how many more episodes we get this season. But anyways, that is kind of my prediction on how the series is, or how the season is going to end. But overall, guys, fantastic episode, great conclusion to this two-part episode. I know technically we kind of got a two-part storyline with Jimmy Olsen and the gorilla and the brain, but it technically was labeled as two different episodes, but I do kind of see it as a two-parter. But this was the first two-parter of the season, like the first one that was actually a part 1 and part 2 in the episode title. But yeah, overall, great episode, great conclusion, animation absolutely fantastic, and I love the overall payoff that had been built up throughout the entire season. And I love how we still have some seeds that were planted earlier, and they're still getting they're still growing as we get to see, especially with the sphere and with now Jimmy even seeing it. But of course, guys, at the end of the day, these are just my A+ opinions. We here at A+ Opinions always want to know what you guys think, so definitely let me know your thoughts on this episode in the comments below. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, but of course, guys, above all, don't forget to keep it A+, and I will talk to you all later. Goodbye.